Sketch the graph of the polynomial function p of x equals x cubed minus 2x squared minus 4x plus 8. First thing we do here is we look at our leading term to determine our end behavior. The leading coefficient is a positive 1. And leading coefficient is positive, and a positive leading coefficient means that the right side of the graph goes up. So y approaches infinity as x approaches infinity. And then we look at the degree, and the degree is 3, and 3 is an odd number. So an odd degree tells us that the left side of the graph does the opposite thing that the right side does. So since the right side went up, the left side will be going down. So that's our end behavior. And then we can factor our polynomial to get our zeros. So here we've got a cubic. We're going to factor this by grouping. So we group those two together, and we group those two together, and we're going to factor. From this first set here, we can factor an x squared out. So pulling an x squared out, we are left with an x minus 2. And then over here, for the second group, we can pull a negative 4 out. So negative 4, and we're left with an x minus 2. And then we've got an x minus 2 that's in common in both of these. So we're going to pull that x minus 2 out, and we are left with an x squared minus 4. And then we can keep going. This x squared minus 4, that's a difference of squares. So that factors as well. That's a difference of squares is a squared minus b squared. And that factors as a minus b times a plus b. So here a is x and b is 2. And so we get x minus 2 times x plus 2. And of course, these are the same factors. So we can combine those and write that as x minus 2 squared. And then times the x plus 2. So now we can get our zeros, and we just take each of our factors and set them equal to 0. So if I set x minus 2 equal to 0, I get x equals 2. And that 0 has a multiplicity of 2 because that's the exponent on that factor. And then I take x plus 2 and set that equal to 0, and I get x equals negative 2. And that has a multiplicity of 1 because the exponent on that factor is 1. And these multiplicities tell me what type of function the graph looks like around that 0. So near x equals 2, I have a multiplicity of 2, and that is a polynomial of degree 2 is a quadratic. So this is going to look like a quadratic. And then negative 2, that has a multiplicity of 1, and a polynomial of degree 1 is a linear function. So that's going to look like a line. And then we're ready to graph this. So I'm going to be going over to negative 1, negative 2, and over to positive 2. And we draw our end behavior. We've got going up on the right side and down on the left side. And for each of these zeros, I just go ahead and path through those. So I've got my positive 2, and I've got my negative 2. And I just connect. And at negative 2, I need to look like a line. So just cross right through like a line would. And then at 2, I look like a quadratic. So I'm going to look like a parabola as I come down and hit that point. And that's going to be the sketch of our polynomial.